Hi, I'm Gillian Utesch, and this is my Superwoman story. Now I really have a whole new appreciation for how my guests feel when they come on our podcast. It's super weird to talk about yourself and also to know where to start because you can't tell the story of your life from the day you were born. So I guess we will just start in the middle and hope that it kind of wraps around and makes sense by the end. So, for this particular story, we will start with Sunday, March 16th. I went to yoga as I always do. At that time, I went to yoga almost every day. And when I came home, my husband was moving out. We hadn't previously discussed this. It wasn't like we had been in a tumultuous relationship with hours in counseling and, mutual discussions about the termination of our marriage and just that things just cannot move forward. So I was very surprised that this was happening. I was very surprised it was happening without any conversation. To try to explain to you what it feels like when you come home and there is a herd of people that I've now since called the stormtroopers. The day the stormtroopers came to my house, packing up all of their personal stuff and just carrying it out into the rainy Sunday night. To say that it felt raw and vulnerable, it's still the only word I can use is rape. And I hate to use that word because I've not personally been raped, thank God. And I don't want to in any way belittle the stories from the women who have been. But in listening to their stories, that is the level of just violation, personal violation that I felt watching that happen. And I had a couple takeaways as I've had time now over the last few months to really reflect on that day. What could have been done differently on everyone's part to make that day, that event, that process not feel so violating? I think first, my husband not being a baby coward, and actually talking to me and having a conversation and being vulnerable and getting into the trenches and doing the work of being married and having conversations that are uncomfortable. That's what you sign up for when you sign up for a lifetime with someone. Show me a perfect life, show me a perfect person, and I'll show you a world that crucified that person. Okay, so we need to find a way to coexist in a kind, loving way, is my point there. That definitely could have happened. For those that came, the stormtroopers, as I call them, they meant well. I don't know what song and dance my husband told them when he called to ask for their help, that he needed this emergent rescue from our life, our marriage, our existence. But the thing that made that feel so violating was it was all people that I knew. It was people that had been to my home many times before. I'd fed them dinner. We'd played board games together. We'd watched movies together. They knew me. They knew I wasn't someone who was going to be so off the rails that my family would need sudden eviction. So I wish someone in that group, one of the stormtroopers, had the hard conversation and used tough love and just said, "Hey, dude, do we need to take a beat? Do we need to think about this? This is kind of abrupt. I understand you're emotional. I understand that you have some things you want to discuss, but moving out randomly on a Sunday and dragging your daughter through 3 Airbnbs because you have nowhere to go, not really the best choice." And maybe those conversations happened, but that to me was my biggest takeaway from there was the people who need instant extraction from relationships, from domestic housing, from people who need emergent extraction are not going to ask for it. Meaning those who are getting physically abused every day, those who are so emotionally intertwined and gaslit and manipulated by their partner, the people who truly need friends to come. I am there at a moment's notice to save you from this. I get it. Everyone meant well. But the people who truly need that type of help are not in a place to ask for it. In fact, they're in the opposite place. They are in denial. They are thinking that they deserve that treatment. They're thinking that they brought that treatment on themselves. They're not going to reach out and ask for help because they don't think that what they're living through is wrong. It's kind of like people who talk about suicide. Most often, if someone is talking about suicide or threatening it, they're not truly serious. They want a solution to that feeling. They want a solution to that chapter in their life, but they don't necessarily want that solution to be death. Who we have to worry about in our families and in our friend circles are those who don't talk about suicide. They're the ones you come home and find on a short drop in the closet. And you're like, why didn't they talk to anybody? So I try to use all things in life as a way for us to grow collectively as humans, as a community. And that was something that I hope no one who came that Sunday, none of the stormtroopers, I hope no one ever does that to you. I hope no one ever does that to your child or someone you love, because the feeling of violation is one that, besides the word rape, I cannot think of one to explain it. So after the stormtroopers left, I took about 20 minutes before I could even summon the strength to walk through my home and survey the damage of their pilfering, for lack of a better word. And as I walked through each room, the level of disrespect I felt on a relationship level with my husband, the level of disrespect he had in not talking to me about this. Before you marry someone, you spend weeks, months, well, unless you're Britney Spears' first Vegas marriage, but you spend weeks, months talking with this person about your needs, your wants, your expectations. Why is that same respect, that same courtesy not extended at divorce? I personally think it should be. So I was dealing with that. I was dealing with just the physical disrespect of my home. There were broken hangers and cracked lids to Tupperwares and just dirty shoe marks everywhere. It's like, this is my home. This is where I live. This is my sanctuary. And I don't think that it's just because I'm a woman I feel that way, even though, it typically is the woman who picks every lamp, every piece of decor, every color, so it does feel like a very personal space to have just treated in that regard. I then instantly kicked myself and said, why the fuck did I not call the sheriff's department to trespass their asses and get them out of here and force my husband to deal with this like a grown ass adult? But in those moments when it was kind of like coming home and finding a dragon in your living room. And you're like, there's a dragon in my living room. Okay, let's handle this. Do we feed the dragon? Do we dart the dragon? Like, what do we do with this dragon? It was that insane in my brain to try to process in real time what was happening. But in looking back, that's 100% what I should have done. And if you're in that situation, I 100% suggest that that's how you handle it. One of the main goals of a Superwoman Handbook is to share our stories honest and raw so that those who are living them don't feel alone, who maybe have had a similar experience, don't feel like the universe singled them out. But then also, God forbid, and I say God forbid because y'all, the level of violation and disrespect doing something like that to someone, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. So then kind of after I took inventory of my home, I didn't know what to do. So I just went T-Swift. I got a bottle of wine. I locked myself in the bathroom, not that I needed to because I was by myself. And I just cried because I had no idea what to do next. What do you do next? How do you navigate the next 12 hours of your life, the next 24 hours of your life, the next 24 months of your life when something like that has happened? Especially because my husband wasn't and is still not communicating with me in any capacity. So I'm having to process and navigate all of this without my partner, which is weird in itself. When you get married, I don't know the exact word. I heard a really smart like MIT person talk about how, our brains have RAM. And when you're married, you just know, okay, this partner has this in their RAM. I have this in my RAM because as one person, we can't singularly do it. And so not having that other person to help me that alone was a hindrance. But then also not having heard anyone else tell a story like this. All I could do is call my best girlfriend and in the ugly cry, sobbing way that I could in that moment, explain to her what had happened and to try to get an understanding about what we're going to do next. The only thing she said to me was, what in the actual fuck? Yeah, that pretty much describes what it feels like when you're in that situation. So I wake up the next day, Monday, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, and I did what I always do. I brushed my teeth. I took a shower. I got dressed. I checked my calendar for that day to see kind of if I had anything on the agenda, and I did. I had a collaboration meeting with someone here locally who's in our AI group, and I pushed forward. I went to my meeting. I lived life. I was a shell of myself. Any bit of human in me was completely gone, because how can you go through something like that the day before and still be alive inside? I don't have any better way to describe it. So I went through my day as I would have normally on that Monday. But the next thought I had after get dressed, get ready, continue on with your day was I didn't get to give the girls their St. Patrick's Day gift. And I know you're thinking, girl, your life is falling down around you like Pompeii, and you're worried about a St. Patrick's Day slipper. I was. Those who follow my channel, you know, I am ridiculously obsessed with holidays and making things feel special. One of my friends really articulated it great. He said, it helps to define the passage of time. And I loved that because, you know, as you go through life, you're like, what month is it? I feel like it was just a day ago. Decorating for each holiday, putting flags and wreaths out for each holiday, it forces me to pause and be purposeful and take note that we are entering another season. You know, time is passing. And am I being mindful and purposeful with that gift? The gift I have of this one life that I get to live. So I like to, and they're always silly gifts. I mean, it's slippers or pajama pants or little shamrocky thingies, or maybe it's like a temporary tattoo, but it also lets the person who receives that gift know that you thought about them. You were in Target, you were in, wherever, and you said, let me get these cute, completely not needed. We talk about first world problems, but, item and then give it to them. And then who doesn't like to open a box? And I won't even get into my bows. You can watch those on the separate video, with a beautiful bow on it. It's kind of just become something I really look forward to and I enjoy. And so I had wrapped their gifts and I almost did it that morning, the 16th morning, but there was kind of a kerfluffle because we had a storm in our area and our church schedule was kind of off, and like just things were just a little not how they normally are. And so I said, okay, no worries. That's what I told myself. I was like, okay, no worries. When the girls come home from school tomorrow, I can have their gifts on the table waiting for them. Had been my follow-up plan. So after I'm kind of coming out of the haze of the stormtroopers, I think, gosh, I didn't get to give them this. And are they now going to think that I didn't get them a St. Patrick's Day gift? Because I did. And so I wanted to just scream into the universe, nothing's changing. I got you a St. Patrick's Day gift. So let's rewind back to Friday, March 14th. I get a text that my husband has changed the locks, the garage code, and that we're getting a divorce. And if I need anything, he will pack it in a suitcase and put it on the curb for me. What? I mean, it was one of those texts I read like 3 times. To be sure, this is someone trying to solicit me legal advice, or to be sure, this is a moving company trying to, get me as a new client. I then thought about, in an effort to kind of bring humor to this, what in the actual fuck situation, when in Sex and the City, Carrie Bradshaw gets broken up with on a Post-it note. I'm like, dude, you can't divorce me via text message. Like, we have to actually go through, the work of, God forbid, fighting for our marriage or working on our marriage or valuing our marriage to the point that I thought we did. And so I get this text. And by the way, beat it up. Should you get the urge to spontaneously, without warning, lock your spouse out, here's some things to consider. If you are a tenant, meaning you're renting the space that you're in, you cannot do that without the approval of your landlord. Minor hurdle. If you own your home and you choose to do this, know that, and you're both on the mortgage, you're both still on the hook to make that payment. And so that can make things a little awkward, both for the person staying and the person who got kicked out, because the person who got randomly kicked out could be like, forget you, Haas. You want to be a big boy, you pay the bill. So it's important to think about what I call, and then what? If I do this, okay, and then what? So thankfully in this situation, I get this text and I'm like, sorry, I was able to reach out to our local sheriff, and he was able to get me back in my house because, I mean, imagine a world where every spouse that has a spat is just randomly locking the other one out. It's weird. So that was our Friday. And of course, once I got back in the house, it was weird. And so Saturday, I wake up, we all kind of go about our day awkwardly like normal because that's what you're used to doing. You're used to going through your usual Saturday routine. You're used to kind of having your engagements with each other as you normally would. You're not used to being in this place. And that Saturday night, my husband and I watched This Is 40, as we always do, and we laughed and we did the whole typical joke. Oh, I'd put you in a wood chipper. Oh, I'd kill you slowly so you're needy. Like, just our typical jokes. And when we went to bed that night, he was sleeping upstairs in the guest room, understandably. Okay. He texted me and he goes, I'll sleep downstairs tomorrow, and meaning Sunday. And when I read that text, I exhaled. Okay, I'm just going to be real with you. If you've had really heavy Mexican and that is in your belly and Mexican does what it's supposed to do, food, and that's what it felt like. Okay. It was like, praise God. And so I was like, okay, we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this. We're going to save our marriage. We're going to work on this. And I went to sleep with the biggest smile on my face because I couldn't wait to wake up on Sunday and know that my husband was going to be in the bed with me that night. I did not know that my Sunday was going to be what my Sunday ended up. So let's rewind back to Thursday, the 13th. I woke up that morning extremely pissed off with my husband because I was about to go downtown to court for a small claims situation that we had with a vendor and our fountain. Insert first world problem. And he knows I hate the reason why I was so angry is he knows I hate conflict. He knows I hate drama. He knows I hate going to court. I'm all like, let's just live and let live and be happy, Mom. But he very much is one that I have been wronged. He should have been a Roman. Okay, honestly. I think that would have been a really good time period for him to live in. But it was just like, this is the law, like, da, da. And so that December, rewind another 3 months, that December, he's like, hey, we really need to file a small claims against this vendor and try to get some money back and blah, blah, blah. And we kept our finances, for the most part, completely separately because we're completely separate. And so I had paid from my checking account that specific vendor. And so I really looked at it as sweet. I was like, I've never had someone love me like this, but I'm okay with it. Like, if this is how he wants to show his love for me, kind of getting this money back and showing this vendor who's boss it up, I was fine with it. But what I didn't realize, I thought he was filling out the paperwork that he was filing the small claims. I didn't realize he was filling it out on my behalf, that I was filing this. So we go in February. And there's all this kind of confusion about the guy and his company and the DBA and all that. And so we had to get rescheduled to March 13th. And at the time in February, I had no idea the significance of March 13th in correlation to everything else that would go on in my life and my story. So the vendor subsequently tried to sue me for loss of wages and work and both. Again, can't we just live and let live, man? And so I woke up that morning very pissed off. And my husband made eggs every morning for breakfast. And let me tell you, that is one of the things I miss about being with him. There's many things, but brother can make some eggs, man. Okay. And I know you're sitting here thinking it's eggs. Why are we talking about it? Because I have tried to replicate those eggs since he left. I can't do it. He had a magic sense of knowing exactly how much egg, how much sausage to how much cheese was the perfect balance. And I looked forward to it. I did. Every morning, I knew he was going to make me eggs, and I knew they were going to be excellent. And that morning, I wish I had taken the time to enjoy my eggs more because they were the last ones he made for me. And that's not what happened. I ate them because I knew I was going to have to go to court, and I was going right to work, and So it was kind of a reminder to me and a lesson that we're trying to incorporate into the handbook as when you know better, you do better. Is just to better appreciate every moment of every day, no matter what you might be feeling at that moment about the world or that specific person. That could be the last time you hug them goodbye. That could be the last time they make you eggs. And I don't want you to have the regret that I have. Not that it would have changed anything, but I would have definitely savored that last bite a little bit more if I'd known. Going back to the week prior, March 6th, my husband sends me a text. And again, when you read these in real time and when you're used to living life that is hectic and you're dealing with kids and dogs and someone ate a battery and whose barf is that on the floor, like you definitely forget to take notice of the small things. And so that was another big takeaway that I share with you in your marriages now, your future marriages, your just all your relationships. Really take note of the small things and what and the meaning behind them. So he texted me. I had gotten into a minor fender bender. Everyone was fine. You could hardly tell anything happened. But I need to take my car to the shop to get it repaired. And he knew that that kind of thing gave me anxiety. I talk for a living. I mean, I have a podcast. I do all this type of stuff, but I am an extreme introvert. I'll let that wash over you for a minute. And so interacting with people in real life, IRL, did that right. Okay, I'm trying to be cool. It is really overwhelming for me to the point where I just, after so many hours and days, I just kind of collapse and I'm exhausted. And especially dealing with people around my car, that's like an extra trigger just in the whole package. So he had texted me that he would go with me to the car place to drop off my car and kind of get the rental car and do that whole swappity do whatever. Well, at that time, I'm like, no, I'm an independent woman. I don't need any help. I can get my rental car done. Da, 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 da. Well, now, after having recorded almost 200 hours of a Superwoman Handbook podcast and speaking with women all over the world in every facet of life and career, I know now that men want to feel needed. They want to open the pickle jar for you. They want to be there to fight your battles at the auto body repair place or to just be there to provide comfort. It's not an inconvenience. It's not something that makes you a weaker woman. And so I really wanted to touch on that because that was legit, like mind blowing for me when I learned that. And so I was like, okay, lesson learned. I wish I would have known that. I mean, now you don't want to be a high maintenance pain in the ass, okay? There's got to be a boundary, but I should have taken him up on his offer. But also, now knowing what I know, he paid his retainer to his attorney 2 days later. So he was already in that place of divorcing me, unbeknownst to me, that he offered that. And I thought that was just such a kindness and such a reminder that no matter where you are in your relationship, in your marriage, in your divorce, to be kind to one another like that. That was just such an offer he didn't have to do now, given his mindset at the time. But I would have appreciated a little warning and been like, hey, so next week might be dropping a bomb in your life. If you want to order some extra Xanax or, have a girl sleepover, you might want to do that because your world's about to come to an end with that. Enjoy the small things. Don't take for granted in the hustle of the day acts of kindness like that, and that people want to feel needed. I think that goes both ways. I think not just men, and we discount them a lot as not wanting like words of affirmation and not wanting to feel needed, but they really do.